Great to be joined by ECAC Coach of the Year in 2024 on ECAC Decision Makers, Reid Cashman. Coach, good to visit with you.
Thanks for having me.
I see that football helmet over your left shoulder. What's that?
We had a legendary football coach, football alum, and hockey alum, Buddy Stevens, who passed away about a year ago, but instrumental in Dartmouth athletics, and then really instrumental in my first 3 years here. He had been a Power 5 coach, came back to Dartmouth football. Dartmouth football was not in a great spot, and he turned it around to where they're a perennial Ivy League champion, and he really helped me on how we can build a sustainable winning hockey program, and gave me a blueprint, and was with me for 3 years through ups and downs, and is still with me even though he's not around anymore. So keep that in our office and think about Buddy often, and really grateful for him and his wife Kirsten and their family.
I had the honor of knowing Coach Stevens pretty well. One of the things I loved about your answer, the respect for legacy and tradition at Dartmouth. How much does that play into your hockey program?
Well, we've had it since 1905. I think it's one of the things it makes Dartmouth unique is how passionate this community is. Like, we're a community-based institution. You drive around town, there's outdoor rinks everywhere. Our program played on Akampana at one point. You can go way back, and you got Eddie Jeremiah, who's a Hall of Famer, who's this legendary college hockey coached the Olympics. George Crow and what he did in the late 70s and early 80s, and then Bob Gaudet in his 20 plus years. And so there's been phenomenal coaches, there's been Hall of Famers, there's been All-American players, there's been NHLers. And I love the history of our league, and I love the history of Dartmouth, and we try to embrace it, and then we try to write our own chapter in it as we move forward.
I'm going to add one more great name to it. Jack Riley, who was coach of the 1960 Olympic team. Just an amazing guy, awesome player, and his whole family. They got an amazing legacy of hockey people. And I was at Brett Riley's wedding, which was at Dartmouth. So you're spot on with everything you're saying, Coach. That's awesome. How does a kid from Red Wing, Minnesota, who went to Quinnipiac, end up as a head coach at Dartmouth?
Oof. That's a great question. I mean, the truth of it is, Rand Pecknell gave me an opportunity to coach when I didn't know if I could coach or wanted to coach or would be good at coaching. But he hired me to come back to my alma mater in 2012. And I fell in love with it. You just know, right? When you're doing something that you love, you knew. So I knew pretty early on, man, I'm going to coach for a long time. I'm not going to lose my job tomorrow, but if I do, I'll go coach a high school team, or I'm going to coach for the rest of my life. And then I was at my alma mater, and I was just loving it, and I was just in it. And we had 5 great years. The last 4 with the 4 NCAA tournaments were kind of that first wave of what now Quinnipiac has become, and no plan on leaving. And Washington called in August of 16. Washington had called, and they had some young prospects in Hershey. Hockey's a small world, right? So Todd Reardon was running the defenseman for the Capitals, who I played for my second year in pro. Lane Lambert was running the forwards in Washington. I played for my third year in pro in Milwaukee. And then Troy Mann was coaching Hershey, and I played for him my rookie year in the East Coast League. And so we had these 3 coaches that knew me, and they knew what we were doing at Quinnipiac from a development standpoint and a coaching standpoint, said, hey, would you have any interest in coming to work with our young guys in Hershey and helping to develop these guys, either NHL players or somebody we could trade at the deadline to help our team make a run at a cup. And my wife and I didn't have kids at the time. We thought it was a great opportunity. I had that previous spring interviewed at UMass, the year they hired Carvel, and Ryan Banford gave me some really good advice of like, hey, everything you know is kind of Quinnipiac, and you may need to go somewhere else and learn. And it was great advice, and I'm so appreciative of Ryan to take that time with me and interview me, and so it all kind of worked out. Went to Hershey for 2 years, really enjoyed it. Excuse me. The Washington job opens up, right? They win the cup. Barry Trotz moves on for lots of different reasons, I guess. But there's a change in that staff. Todd Reardon gets that job, and at 35, I get asked to to coach the defending Stanley Cup champions. And it's a long answer for you, Pierre, but I want to give you the why. How did I end up back at Dartmouth? Well, I'm coaching in the National Hockey League, and it's everything I ever imagined. It's first class travel, it's first class hotels, it's first class meals. We have one of the best teams in the world. We have some of the best players to ever play the game. We have a chance to win another cup. That first game we played Pittsburgh in the regular season. In 3 years in a row, they'd eliminated each other, the last 3 Stanley Cup champions. And I'm on the bench in the second, and Crosby and Ovechkin are chin to chin in a regular season. It's probably October game. And the roof's going off. It's in Pittsburgh. I'm like, this is unbelievable. It was unbelievable, right? So all of that is checking so many boxes, but you know what you love. And I knew pretty early on, man, I want to get back to college. I want to develop kids. I want to be part of that process. And I want a chance to be a head coach at a level. And I knew college was going to be where I was going to get my first head coaching gig. But no timeline. I'm going to do the best I can for Washington. And ultimately, COVID happened in the NHL season. This Dartmouth job opened up. My wife is from New Hampshire. We had 2 kids at the time. Now we have 3. It was a great chance to come back to New Hampshire, close to family. And then I know we can win. I know this place can be special because in 2004, I'm giving you the full answer. I was a sophomore at Quinnipiac. I'd never been in New Hampshire in my life. We came up here to play them. We were not a rival. Thompson was sold out our arena. They had 9 guys on that team playing the NHL. Lee Stepniak, David Jones, Nick Johnson, Ben Lovejoy, Tanner Glass. So I've played in a full Thompson versus a team full of NHLers. And so I know we can be great here. And that's how I end up back here. And now I'm here and I'm loving it. And it's an unbelievable environment and love building this thing every day.
Well, you are building it. And that speaks to my next question. How do you identify recruits that are good enough to be hockey players at the level you need them to be and also do well enough academically? And I want to be fully transparent. Coach Cashman knows my daughter went to Dartmouth and graduated from Dartmouth. So I know the academic rigors of Dartmouth. How do you recruit a hockey player that's good enough athletically and good enough academically to come to Dartmouth?
Yeah, it's an easy answer for us. Not easy to do, but easy answer for us. High character, high compete, high hockey IQ. That's it. Scouting's hard. The NHL misses on first rounders. Recruiting is really challenging. Well, if you're a competitive human being, you're going to work to get better every day. You're going to go to class. You're going to work to do what you have to do outside the rink. You're going to put good things in your body, right? That competitive nature will allow you to maximize every day. If you're somebody of character, you'll be a great teammate as you go through it. If you're our best player, you'll want to be an All-American. If you're our 7th defenseman, you'll work to be our 6th, but you'll do it as a good teammate. So character and compete, and that translates. And then if you can think it, you can play. And maybe at a certain point, size matters and skating matters at the next level. But in college, if you can think it, you can play. And those 3 attributes allow us to coach you. It's allowed us to coach Sean Chisholm so that as a senior, this guy has gotten better and better every year, and we can go through our whole lineup. So that's the characteristics, whether we're watching a 16-year-old or a 20-year-old, and whether it's a kid down the street in prep school or a kid in Western Canada and anywhere in between.
How do you keep losing goalies? Your first year, you get Clay Stevenson, he moves on. He signs with your old team, Washington. Then you get Cooper Black. He's a superstar, helps get you to the ECAC final last year. He moves on. What's going on with the Dartmouth goalies, Coach?
Well, we're developing kids. I think that's what we do. Like we have to. Our job is to develop these guys as players and as people, and give them the best opportunity to succeed when they leave here, both hockey-wise, and then our degree is going to help them succeed when hockey's done, because it ends for everybody at some point, right? Hopefully it's when they're 40 years old, but it might be when they're 28, it might be when they're 22. Those 2 guys in particular, I think we have the best assistant coach in college hockey in Jason Tapp, as a recruiter, as a person, and then certainly as a developer. And you look at his goalies at Union, his goalies now at Dartmouth, he's never had a starting goalie not sign at least an American League contract. And so he's excellent at recruiting them, and then he doubles down on developing them. So we're fortunate to have Jason, and we're really proud of those 2 guys. And we don't lose those guys. We move them on, and then we're ready to bring the next kids in, and that's part of our job here.
Fascinating to hear you talk about the mentorship role. I know a lot of the guys you've played for or worked with. So I'm going to throw a couple names at you, and you just tell me, what did you learn from those people that have made you a better coach, especially at the college level? So I'll start with Spencer Carberry.
Was really, really prepared. Excellent communicator. One of the best communicators. Like when we were in the office a lot, when he came back for that Hershey job, and then and then when he was in South Carolina, when I was in Hershey, like even at that point, his ability to communicate in training camp, whether it was with Brian McClellan, the GM at the time, or whether it was with an NHL player, or whether it was with a young prospect, his ability to communicate and be prepared with how he's going to communicate was excellent.
Troy Mann.
Yeah. Like it's hard for a coach to kind of out-compete or will you to the next level, but that's what Manor does. That Manor is this guy. And so I played for him in the East Coast League, and it's 76 games. So when he coached, he was the only coach. It was him and an equipment guy on the bench. He was running the fours and the D. He was doing he was doing everything. And it could have been 3-3 in Beaumont, Texas. And that Sunday afternoon game, he never took a night off with his intensity. And in the minors and in pro hockey, that's not easy to do, and that's natural or that's human nature, and that's why he's been as good of a coach as he is.
Rand Pecknold.
The things I said about Spencer and Troy can go for Rand too. I think Rand's greatest attribute is he has gotten better from. I met him and they recruited me in 2002, I guess. So I met him in 2002 to where we're at today. How he's evolved as a coach, how he's evolved as a person, how he's like, and he's incredibly intelligent. Dad worked at MIT. Like this guy could have been done just about anything because of his intelligence. He's usually the smartest guy in the room just on intelligence, but he's evolved with how he communicates, how he coaches, how he uses his competitiveness, how Quinnipiac has played over the years, how they've recruited over the years. So his ability to evolve as hockey's evolved, he's as cutting edge as today as he's ever been, and he's been in the game a long time.
How's college hockey going to change because of what's going on with the major juniors and the ability to recruit major junior players out of whether it's Quebec or the Maritimes or Ontario or Western Canada? How's that going to evolve for somebody like Rand or for Reid Cashman?
Well, the talent pool gets deeper, right? You probably know what it's 1,000, 1,200 extra players that are 16 to 20 years old that are eligible for college hockey. And now are they all going to want to go to college? Are they all going to have the academics? Are they all going to fit every demographic for every school? No, but the pool just got ramped up, and that means our product's going to be deeper. That means our school, Dartmouth, is going to get involved in the Quebec League, the OHL, and the Western League. And we're going to continue to recruit prep school, USHL, North American League, Alberta, and BC. And so the schools that are going to dig in on recruiting and use their relationships and take advantage of this pool are going to bring in stronger classes. Our league, the ECAC, is going to get stronger without a doubt because of what some of the teams are going to do and some of the coaches in this league. And that's for me and for Dartmouth, it's really exciting. It's really exciting that we have more players that we can talk about what Dartmouth is, what our product is, how we're developing people, what our goal is for the individuals here, what our renovation is going to look like. I mean, we get to talk to an extra 1,000 kids about what our product is, and we're going to bring in the right 7 or 8 every year, and that's really exciting.
One of the coolest things I thought last year was watching you guide your team not only to the Final Four of the ECAC, but getting into the championship game or getting close to it. So you were named Coach of the Year. I got to ask you this because I coached against him and I recruited against him. Did you know the late Tim Taylor?
So when I'd signed with the Maple Leafs and I was back training that summer in Hampton at Quinnipiac, and there used to be a skate, and Tim Taylor ran those skates. And so I think 2 years in a row I got to be on the ice with him. He's the first coach I ever saw wear the batting gloves when he was running the skates. So just a little bit, not as much as I would have liked. Quinnipiac had this old trainer, Foxy Ed Maturo, who was at Yale forever. And so I've heard a lot of Tim Taylor stories, but just met him a little bit.
He was an amazing man. He was delightful to coach against, and he was intense too, but not a lot of coaches say that guy was delightful to coach against, but he was such a gentleman, the way he carried himself. And I think it's so appropriate that you actually won an award named after him, because I see a lot of similarities between you and Tim, believe it or not. Just how thorough you are, how prepared you are, how much passion you have to coach. Tim didn't have to coach. Tim was a scion. He came from an amazingly wealthy family, but he chose that profession. He was really good at it. I wonder what your message is to your players this year to follow up on what you accomplished last year. What do you tell your team?
We've worked really hard to be consistent. I've learned that from, again, you look back at Spencer, or, I played for Dan Bilesma. I played for Jimmy Hugh. Like some of these coaches I played for, and when there's consistency in the messaging, I always found that was the best. And so we've just always talked about growth. When we won 5 games, it was about growth. When we were going through our run last year, it was growth. It wasn't, if we win tonight, we can maybe get in the top 4. We can maybe do this, or it's man, we just got to figure out how to maximize today and then evaluate it honestly and get better and grow and do it again tomorrow. So going into this year, it was growth. It was like, wherever we're at on September 13th at our opening meeting, if we're not better on September 14th, we failed. And we certainly better be better, at the end of March and early April. And that's kind of taken away maybe external expectations. I think the other thing that's made the messaging more, easier, I guess, is we got picked to finish 12th last year. And we didn't believe it, right? Internally, we didn't believe it. And so we just said that, hey, we don't believe that. And let's go out every day and get better, and improve it, and see where we end up at the end. So then this year, when we get picked to finish 3rd or 2nd, well, if we don't believe it when they say 12th, we don't get to believe it when it's 3rd, 2nd, or 3rd, right? And so let's just focus on growth. Let's get better every day. And it's mundane, it's coach speak, and but it works. It works, and it's allowed our guys to stay focused. It's allowed us, whether we get swept, which we've gotten swept this year, or whether we sweep and win some massive games. We come in on Monday, we show identity video. We have an identity practice. On Tuesday, we start to get into some of the things that we need to are correctable and then that are repeatable. And we have 3 really good days as we build into Friday, and it's allowed our guys to come in with their guard down. Here's how we approach our 4-day week, and we're seeing the benefit of it.
I had a chance to coach in the league for a while and obviously play around all kinds of college hockey rinks. Is there one rink that Reid Cashman says, you know what, I just love going into this place? And don't count Thompson.
Well, I was going to say Thompson's the easiest one for me. Well, like I got so many memories of Quinnipiac. Like there's such a piece of me there between playing and coaching and the alumni piece of it. That off the top of my head in college hockey would be one. I'd say the other one, which is, we don't run into Minnesota very often in recruiting, so I don't have like, there's something about, for me as a Minnesota kid, walking into Mariucci and seeing the All-American murals on the wall and seeing the M and just what that means. I would say that rink holds, a college hockey rink, that rink holds something to me.
So I'm going to give you 2 because they mean a lot to me. One is Lina, because a Friday night or Saturday night at Lina is crazy. Yep. And the other one would be Appleton, because you had a lot of good memories at Quinnipiac. I have unbelievable memories of coaching at St. Lawrence and working with Joe Marsh. And our teams were cuckoo crazy good. You talk about all those guys that played at Dartmouth that played pro. Go look at our rosters from the late 1980s at St. Lawrence and how many guys played pro. It was unbelievable.
Well, my 07 was my senior year at Quinnipiac. We lost in the ECAC finals. It was our second year in the league, and we lost. And we beat Clarkson in the semis. They were the 2 seed. We upset them, and then St. Lawrence was the 1 seed. So that was a tough trip back in the day to go up there and play those 2 teams. And they had Drew Bagnall, and they had that, it feels tight. I don't know what the dimensions are. It feels tight, and the crowd's on you, and they were heavy and mean and Western Canadian, and those are fun games. But you knew what you're going into in 07 with that group for sure.
You nailed it though, Coach. Heavy and mean. That's what Joe and I tried to get and carried over all those years, which is kind of cool. What do we expect to see the second half of the year in the ECAC? What, in the way you see it, what do we expect to see? I talk to NHL coaches all the time about trends that are evolving in the league. What trend do you see evolving in ECAC as we go into the second half of the year?
I think the parity this year is as close as it's been in a while. Obviously, some teams are maybe going to start getting going here a little bit. I think 1 through 6, and I don't exactly know who those 1 through 6 are going to be, but I think 1 through 6 are going to go down to the last 2 weekends. And then somebody will separate themselves to get to the top 4, and then somebody else will separate themselves to win the league. But it's going to be so important that you get points every night. It's going to be so important that you have consistency, and then those special teams, those saves, our league has always been the 1 goal game. It's just the reality of it, because I think there's really good coaching. I think there's parity throughout. I think because we play different teams on back-to-back nights, it becomes this unique challenge. And I think that creates some of the parity, but I also think our league, better than any other league, prepares us for the NCAA tournament, because we're the only league that does different opponents. And then we all get to the NCAA tournament, and then you win the first game, and you got to beat somebody else to go to the Frozen Four. And I don't think enough people talk about how good our league is at the NCAA tournament and winning those games because of the way our league is set up. And that's one of the reasons I really love our travel partners.
But what a massive point. That's a tremendous point. So I'll leave you with this one. As I said before, my daughter went to Dartmouth, so I had 4 really good years there. My son played a lot of games at Thompson Arena, as you know. So I went to go watch, besides my daughter being there. So Molly's, Murphy's, or Pine. Those are 3 distinguished restaurants in Hanover. Where could I find Reid Cashman?
Yeah, Murphy's is the easiest one, Nigel, and they got a great chef, and they got a great kitchen, and I have a little Irish in my background, and so there's something about an Irish pub on a main street when the snow is falling, and but this community is awesome because it's small town, but we have a world-class hospital, a world-class institution, and some of the best alums you could ever hope for. And people come back to this place, they raise their families in this place. And so Main Street, it's small town restaurants with a phenomenal product. And that's what we're trying to get our hockey program to be. We're a small town hockey program that we're trying to put together this phenomenal hockey product. And Dartmouth, in the history of Dartmouth, deserves to have a championship program up here, and Phil Thompson, and that's what we're working towards every day.
Coach, I can't thank you enough. This was so much fun and so enlightening. Way to go. I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Pierre, man. All the best.
It's great having Reid Cashman on, ECAC Hockey Decision Makers. Until the next episode, bet in 2025 to you, Reid. Thank you so much.
Thank you.